be able to hear me in this microphone. You see the levels right there. And so if there's anybody right now watching the live stream on YouTube, they should be able to hear me. Usually I'll do like a quick check of that kind of thing. Like if I have an extra laptop or sitting around. Usually the white laptop is working, but today it's not. If you wanted to, you could check on your phone and see if the sound was coming out, and then if it was, then you know the sound is working. I'm confident the sound is working. Nothing's changed since the last time I've done this. So I'm going to click the scene one. I'm going to pull up that graphic right there. And so now, oh golly, look at that, oh, Swan Devoo. And then boom, hey, camera one. There's a Riley. There's a Sean the Swan Monster with the Riley Monster and a Teal.
Hello.
Mi esposa.
Hi.
And today we are going live to just do some fun media stuff and maybe figure out the sequencer. I've been spending a lot of time on this Yamaha RS7000, courtesy of Anthony Duraco of a band which shall remain nameless because, you know, he doesn't play in bands, he is the band. But he's an awesome guy. Anthony Duraco is great for, hang on so long. Anyway,
Baby girl. Ooh, you have a bug bite.
So we're just gonna do some dancing back and forth here with a baby, handing around a baby, and maybe making a beat. So the first thing, Teal,
Yeah.
when we're gonna do this, is we want to set the style.
Here, let me get her like a toy or something.
Okay, yeah, do that.
Here, take her.
Riley likes to jam out. Go ahead, Riley. Wait, how come I can't hear it? I should totally be able to hear this right now. But I'm not. I don't know why. Oh wait, no. Oh yeah, it's there.
In the headphones?
No, it should be in the speakers.
I'm live, yawning. That's so cool.
Yeah, there's some sound.
Here, Rai.
Oh yeah.
And a calculator.
Oh. No way. Okay, so this is the home screen the RS7000 comes to when you turn it on. After you've turned it on, this is just the natural state of the sequencer, right?
Okay.
I've been pretty much leaving the stuff on.
Okay.
I haven't really been turning it on. It doesn't really eat up a whole lot of juice. So, I don't really sweat.
That is not a fun channel, though.
Okay, so when it loads up, it's going to come up right as automatically as this style. Number one, style, this. And it's a programmed sequence, it's a stock sequence. So it comes up right when you load up. The pattern, you're in pattern mode here. So there's your different modes, right there. Okay?
Okay.
And these different, you've got your pattern mode, your pattern chain.
I should be taking notes.
Okay, yeah.
Can you have my pen down there?
Oh, yeah. There's other better pens over there on the table if you want. But if that works, that works. So right when you first power it on, the first mode that it loads up is the pattern mode.
Okay.
And you can always, and the PDF download of the manual for this is available online. So if you ever have any questions.
What is this thing called again?
So it's right up here at the top, Yamaha, by Yamaha. And it's got, and that's the model number right there, the RS7000.
Okay, I think my pen is up.
Okay, so that's as much as I can squeeze it out of you. Okay, well we can just, you know, we take a Riley break. Oh,
Come here.
oh, the baby. So then while you're doing your thing, I'll just, here's what I'll do. Let's pull up a video for fun. How's that? Want to watch some funny video with me? Oh, that's right. It's not going to pull up. I'm going to try it anyways. Shabbat Shalom. Roop doop doo doo doo. So one of the things I'm going to be doing, if you're just coming across my channel for the first time, I'm assuming most of the people who are going to come across this channel are probably not seeing it for the first time. But if you are seeing it for the first time, my name's Sean Lewis. I'm a musician and a recording artist. And I've been involved in multimedia for a really long time, since as far back as I can remember. Raised by a whole bunch of family of musicians, and grew up heavily involved in the arts, and my family definitely has a knack for the arts. So I have been into that for a long time, and married in different ways. And currently, a project that I am developing, I'm in the middle of developing and arranging with other musicians, is called Good Godfather. It's my latest rock act that I've been formulating for about a year and a half, maybe. And this Swandevoo is a rendezvous channel, I call it. you get that, for all of those different ideas that coalesce. And so you'll notice that most of the content ends up being heavily weighted toward the Good Godfather project, but is by no means the only project that I'm invested in. And I have, nor is it the only project I hope to be invested in. And so that's really where Swandevoo gets to be kind of a playing ground for opening up different avenues of creativity and expression and content as far as the internet goes, and live streaming. And so this is my first attempt to bring in my wife, who is a spectacular vocalist and mom and artist, and she's very creative, and so we are diving in together on developing that interaction on the web platform. So I'm going to, just for fun, pull up a video then to comment on for fun. Which will be a theological video. I like to talk about theology, and if you didn't know that by now, if you don't know me by now, you will never, ever, ever know me. Ooh. If you don't know me by now, if you don't know me, you will never, ever, ever know me. I can't see the comments. Broadcast details, ask to follow, ask for share. Hide chat. It's not showing the chat. Whatever. Am I live? I'm not live. Oh no, I'm live. Oh. Oh, maybe I press on that. Do I go back here? How do I... Nope. Oh well. Okay. Anyway, putting that back up there. Periscope's kind of fun.
She heard your singing.
If you don't know me, you will never, ever, ever know me. Ooh.
If you don't know me by now,
If you don't know me,
you will never,
never, ever, never, ever, ever know me.
The Museum of the Extent.
The Breslin manuscript.
The Breslin manuscript. It's in there. Yeah.
Okay.
So this has Matthew, Mark, Luke,
so
and
you
John,
can't see the video.
all in Hebrew. So this is a compilation from the first
hear it.
century, and we can authenticate it, and we will if you have me back for another show.
Oh, okay. We're going to do that. I want to continue on with this for just a minute, but I see that we've already run up to the time where every one of our episodes, we give everyone an opportunity for them to participate in what the Almighty is doing in revealing these things and getting them out to the world. And to do that, it takes a great deal of money to do so.
Oh, they want your money.
Let me ask you a question. When you got on the plane, did you say, "I'm a minister of the gospel. I get all my plane rides free"? When we pull into the gas station, no, it doesn't happen.
Do you
that
have a
way,
minister discount?
Yeah, give us a ministry discount. Nehemiah flies all over the world, and it's all at great expense.
Yes.
To be able to assemble this information, and sometimes people's lives are risked to be able to do this. But ladies and gentlemen, you can participate in the adventure, support the adventure, because what we're getting, we're not waiting for this to come out. And what I have Miles here for is to reveal things that he is writing a book on, but he said, it's going to take him some time to do this. This stuff needs to get out to the world now.
That's right.
And so
it's all coming out right now. New manuscripts
laptop,
of the Hebrew Gospels are coming out now,
including
including the one that you just mentioned that he got in the Vatican junk pile. This is a new manuscript, other than the Shem Tov manuscript, other than the Hebrew Gospels from Catalonia, which I've been translating for the past 2 years. This is a new manuscript with all the vowel pointings of the name of God.
And
it's a Hebrew manuscript. It was done by Messianic scribes, but it's a new manuscript.
I want you to tell that story, to trace this thing through, because these are the believers, the Messianic Jews who were hunted and tortured almost to extinction, and we're going to tell you more about that, because the underground assemblies of Yahovah have been out there holding on to the truth, and it's here for us now. But right now, we're going to give you just 2 minutes. This is your time to support this ministry. We are freely giving.
The Good Godfather
now
Project
it's your turn to freely give in response.
Sitting down
this is your opportunity. We'll be back.
The songs that I've written and make videos out of them to teach other people how to play the songs. And so I'm thinking I'm probably going to post it on YouTube. And so be on the lookout for those ones when they come out. And this channel, on the Good Godfather channel, because I do have a Good Godfather channel, and that's where I post Good Godfather material. Other material that comes together I'll be posting on mostly this channel, and then as the network kind of develops and I get other people involved, should they ever present themselves, then we will put together just a bigger network of cool stuff, cool creativity, stuff that's not evil. Try not to be evil. I like kind of sinister style of music, but I gotta tell you, I'm over the whole, like, we've got to be dark and aggressive, and I mean, that's fun, I think, for a bit, but I don't know, I'm just not as tied into that, what do you call it, aesthetic as much anymore. It's not, I don't know what it is. I mean, it's fun still to recollect, but I don't know. It is interesting how things change. But I still like heavy guitar. I guess I'm more just talking about
Dr. Miles
like
Jones, who was the one who deciphered the inscriptions at Mount Sinai, was backed up by Dr. David Roll, who is really one of the stars of the Patterns of Evidence documentary that was done by Tim Mahoney. And tell us, Miles, what was his position on this, Dr. David Roll?
Well, you were there.
He did save David Roll.
When you took him to see Jim and Penny so he could examine their artifacts and evidence for himself, he looked at those inscriptions and they explained what they meant. And they heard him say under his breath, well, the Israelites must have been there then. Because these inscriptions are the only evidence that cannot be explained away. I mean, there are plenty of split rocks out there and altar-looking places. I don't particularly agree. I think the archaeological evidence is very, very strong there. Mm-hmm. But, you know, he's a prominent archaeologist. If he says you can explain it all away, you cannot explain away the inscriptions.
That's right. And we actually did a debate. Dr. David Roll and myself, we debated these things about the route of the Exodus and all. And there are ways to explain things away, no matter how weak they are. There are ways to do it. But when he saw this, it's like, this does it right here. There's no way. So tell us about these inscriptions again, what they conclude.
We talked about the footprints, the first literate act of the Israelites, where they placed and traced the soles of their feet and then put an alphabetic caption beside it with the triple hash mark, which is the letter K in ancient Thamudic, the earliest alphabet of letter symbols known to linguistic science. But there were other inscriptions there. There were complete inscriptions. I'm going to bring it up. The first one here says, died Kalia. Now here, you can see that the triple hash mark, the letter K, is used as an alphabetic symbol. These are the old alephs from the pictographic alphabet. Now, having a cattle icon is not unusual, but just the head of the cow stands for the aleph, right, in the old pictographic alphabet. So this inscription was made right at the cusp when they're changing over from the pictographic alphabet to the alphabet, all of symbols, because there's no difference between the patina there. The patina is the covering on the rock. It weathers, and you get a certain type of buildup of minerals on it, and when you cut through it, you get a bright gash. Right?
And that's what they're the pictographs of, like the chiseled feet and and the altar of the golden calf.
But after
it's chiseling away the patina, and once you do that, it's forever changed.
It is forever changed. You can. The thing about it is it will weather again, so you can tell how old it is. That it's ancient. That's how we know that the Yehovah stone, the Moses stone, is ancient, because the weathering inside of the grooves is the same as the rest of the rock. So it's old. It's been around for a long time. This was not made yesterday. And you can see the patina has been cut through here and is about the same brightness. So they were made at, probably the same time, or at least approximately the same time. So this one shows that the triple hash mark is definitely a letter of the alphabet. Now the next one says, then came Amalek and fought with Israel and Rephidim. And remember, these particular inscriptions were found at the base of Sinai, which was Rephidim was the campsite before that, just the one they had come to just before that.
Right.
And so this is recording the fact that they had they had killed an Amalekite who was attacking the unprotected. That's what it says.
Okay, so Exodus 17:8 says, "Then came Amalek and fought with Israel in Rephidim, and then there's a stone." And what does this stone say then? The stone itself.
The stone says, "Died Amalek." So it marks where they killed an Amalekite. These are all funerary, but they tell a story because they were all found. It was found in a grouping, right? The stone with Amalek was found with this one, which says "Died Hagar." You can see it right down there on the bottom. "Died Hagar," which is like ISEFU. And Hagar is a name that is directly linked to Mount Sinai in the Bible. Galatians 4:6 says Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia. It's hard to find a more direct link. We're not saying this was that Hagar, but it's a name that would have been widely used in the region. Hagar was the matriarch of the region.
Well, that's interesting because it is Paul, Shaul, that said this. And when Shaul left Jerusalem, he went down to Arabia, was there for years. And where would you go if you've been killing believers and you had to repent and it wasn't safe to be in Jerusalem? I'd head to Mount Sinai, back where the Torah was given.
Right. Well, it said he was seeking divine revelation. I did not go up to Jerusalem to seek those who were there.
Right.
He went into Arabia to seek divine revelation. It says that. And a few passages later, he identifies the location of Mount Sinai in Arabia, not in Egypt.
And so this inscription, "Died Hagar," I'm just projecting here that he may have seen that. He may have seen that down there, and that is that Hagar in Sinai, which is in line with Jerusalem, as it says in Galatians.
You know, I never thought of that, but that's quite true. He probably saw all the evidence that was there. We don't know how long he stayed, but it might have been for quite a while. But he identified
Hagar,
the location.
Died Hagar, right there.
In this part of a grouping, you have died Amalek, you have died Hagar, and the third one says died Amaya, daughter of Hagar. Now that word daughter, names are names, right? But bat for daughter, none of the other languages in the region, the ancient languages in the region, use the word bat for daughter. This is ancient Hebrew. This is ancient Hebrew.
This is incredible.
That proves this is ancient Hebrew. The names are Hebrew. All right. So a lot of the names are Hebrew that we see in these ancient inscriptions. But this word bat, and the word died is a word that we know that was used in the ancient inscriptions. So this is like a handful of inscriptions. So far we've looked at 4. The Saudis, when they sent their team in there, they found 155 different inscriptions. So there are more. There are more out there.
In these particular ones, you received these photographs from Jim and Penny, was it?
I did. Yes, they're all from Jim and Penny. Now we have some really.
Okay. Now when they saw them, they had no idea what they were.
They didn't know.
Outside of their field. He's an oil field engineer.
Right, and that was our first contact when I called them up. I'd been researching the writing of God in 3216 as the original alphabet. I had no idea about the controversy over the location of Mount Sinai. I was a latecomer. I was already researching it, and someone told me, "Do you know about this debate over the location of Mount Sinai?" Well, here's a book that has the information. That they had all this archaeological information, really quite convincing. So that's when I got a hold of Jim and Penny, who had provided that evidence, and first thing they said was, "How interesting that you should call. We have inscriptions from the base of Mount Sinai in Arabia. Do you think you could translate them for us?" So they sent them to me.
What a treasure. And so it's like your whole life was to get ready for this moment in time that these would be found. No one had any idea what they were, how to read them, and they were put in your hands, and you can read them.
I was fascinated with the origin of the alphabet since I was, in my 20s in college studying linguistics. And so I studied it all those years, and every place where I went to, I studied it and studied any inscriptions I could find. And then I was told to do this. I was called specifically to find the evidence on this. And then the Caldwells stepped in, because I basically whined to Yehovah that, I don't know how you would launch an expedition, how long it would take you, how much money it would cost, but as long as you'll open the doors, I'll charge through them. Within 2 months, Caldwell sent me the information. Didn't even have to pay the postage.
Now, let me ask you. You started on this linguistic journey at 20 years of age in college. I assume you were a believer already at that point? Or?
I was a lapsed believer.
Oh, okay.
Raised in the Presbyterian Church. I'd gone far away from it. And this was my journey back.
Okay. And, what a journey it continues to be.
It has been a huge journey. But when I went into it, I was a product of the secular university. You know, I believed everything they had taught me. But eventually, because of my love for the children I taught, I began to question everything I'd been taught because it wasn't working. And that led me to the great secret of Sinai, the way God did it, the godly way of doing it. And that changed my life. But I was willing and still am. If I see something that I think was someone has inserted things in the New Testament, for example.
Oh, yeah.
I will say so. Whether it makes me popular or not, I will say it like I see it. But my examination of the Exodus evidence proved beyond a shadow of a doubt to any reasonable person, any reasonable scientist for sure, that it happened at that place at exactly the biblical time it says, at exactly the place it says. It happens in the Old Covenant, right there, at Sinai in Arabia.
Okay.
We have it.
I don't want to throw you completely off track, so continue on with these revelations.
Well, the other thing that we found there was the well, it was not found there, but the Yahweh stone. The Yahweh stone is...
Wait. We're going to correct it.
The Yehovah stone, or the Moses stone, as it is called. There is other evidence there, the archaeological evidence. The stone columns that were found at the altar at the very base of the mountain. This is specifically described in Scripture, where a stream comes out of the mountain, right at the base. They describe it perfectly, and the stone columns to the 12 tribes they recited. What do you find here? You find an altar at the base with a chamber for burnt offerings that has the organic remains, ashes and animal bones in it. That's exactly what you'd find Then the Saudis did this. This is one of the things they gave away, and it's right there. And you can see the pictures that the Saudis took in their investigation. The ones that the Caldwell took right beside it. You can see it's the same. It's exactly the same information.
Right, and those who have seen the video by Ron Wyatt where he's talking about this, he is talking about the evidence that the Caldwells put in his hands. So he's interpreting from the video and from the photographic evidence and making his conclusions on that, because there were things that Ron never saw. And he told me that he didn't see these things. The Caldwells were the ones that found it and documented it, and then we have it in our hands now.
But he did a great job of getting the information out to the public.
Absolutely.
Have others. They've been used by Yehovah, even though they may have made mistakes. They still help to publicize it, which is good. But we stick to the evidence.
Ron told me that Bob Cornuke has done a far better job getting the information out, even though Bob Cornuke was never at Mount Sinai.
He has.
But it's true with me. I've never been to Mount Sinai either. I just don't pretend that I did.
I haven't either.
But to get it out to the world, that's our job. It's our job as believers to get this out to the world. And so however it's gotten out to the world, it needs to get out there.
It does. It's critically important. Speaking of people who have been to Mount Sinai, we have new information from Professor Ryan Morrow. He's a Fox News analyst in the Middle East. New photos, new inscriptions like this one, the footprint with the triple hash mark. And he's a bona fide expert and a Sinai researcher in his own right. And he's got a website, Sinai in Arabia, where you can probably find most of this. But this is just broke. I have permission to show it on this show. This is just broke. Nobody has seen this stuff yet. And this is an ancient Talmudic inscription, a little bit illegible, but you can enough to see that it's ancient Talmudic. And the triple hash marks, footprints with sandal straps. That's the way they did it in the other pictures we have.
And this is all from
this is from the area around Rephidim and and Mount Sinai and Arabia.
And so this is from the journalist that's with Fox News?
Right. This is Professor Ryan Morrow.
Okay. All right.
So
well, good job, Ryan. This is good to see this.
This is from around the Split Rock. No.
Oh yeah, that's incredible. And now that we've got the video footage of the drone going over the top of this.
Well, see that cinches it, right? You cannot say that Jim and Penny whipped this up in Photoshop or got it from somewhere else. Other pictures from somewhere are frauds. That's dead now.
Mm-hmm.
Their archives have been proven over and over to contain exactly what they said they did.
Yep.
So another one that we have here is Dr. Sun Ha Kim. And this is a beautiful inscription.
Yeah,
this is the menorah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the menorah in Exodus, they take 10 whole passages where Yehovah explains exactly how to make this. And then at the end, the last verse, he says, make sure you make it exactly the way I told you to on Mount Sinai, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly the way he told to make it. Now, you will notice that in the New Testament and in the Old Testament, in Gentile Bibles, they always eliminate the word menorah and use the word candlestick. Well, a menorah is not just any old candelabra. We know exactly what it is. It was made specifically by Yehovah. Specifically this way, it's not any old candlestick, but what it does is...
there were no such thing as candles back then. Right. They are lampstands.
That's right, they were
and
lampstands.
It's a stand, a 7-branch stand for 7 lamps that was on it.
They did not want the menorah to become a Christian icon. That's exactly the reason they left it out and translated it as candlesticks. All right, and what difference does it make? It makes a huge difference. When Yeshua said, you do not light a candle, put it under a bushel, he said, you light it to put it on a menorah and hold it out for all the world to see.
Mm-hmm.
Different meaning, right?
Right.
A lot of different meaning. And in Revelation, it opens. The whole revelation of St. John opens with the picture of not a candlestick, but a menorah. And through the menorah, you see on the other side the Son of Man. Now, do I have to explain the symbolism of that to you? But you lose all the symbolism of it, the meaning of it, when you start toying with the words because you're editing the Bible. And that's exactly what that is. That's editing of the Bible. But in the Hebrew Gospels, they don't edit it. A menorah is a menorah. Wherever it's mentioned, it's a menorah. So you find that's why finding the Hebrew Gospels is so important. I always explain that to people. It's only important if you want to know the truth of the word. If you don't care, then it doesn't matter.
And that's why I want you to get into this, Miles, because they have paganized. They have taken the Hebrew concepts out of the subsequent versions of the Bible. Even this last week, someone was reading about in Luke chapter 6, verse 1. It says it was the second Sabbath after the first. Mm-hmm. That's what it says in King James, and it's correct. But in in many versions, it just says it was one of the Sabbaths. Well, you completely lose the chronology. The second Sabbath after the first is the Rosh Chodesh. It was the second Sabbath after the Rosh Chodesh in which Yeshua was at a great feast at the house of Matthew when Matthew was called from his job as a toll booth collector for the Romans. And if you take away that, the second Sabbath after the first of all, every commentary I've ever looked at has been done by Gentiles, and they decimate this thing. Right. They have no idea what the biblical reckoning of time is. Why would it be the second Sabbath after the first? What does that mean? They have no idea.
Why is that important?
Right. They have no idea.
That's a great example because you lose all that detail when the Greeks start recopying the Bible because they're clueless about the Hebrew calendar, the finer details of Hebrew culture, even the names of Hebrews. And the whole timeline, they're all happened way in the past. So they often get these things wrong. When you go back to the Hebrew, you get the closer story to the Hebrew Messiah who actually walked upon the earth.
I'm so excited about what we're going to be able to get into when we get into Luke and all. Okay, continue on, because we're going to have to continue on with this. There's more stuff than we can possibly cover in this week together.
That's right. But the key of it, the key is, like I said about Sinai, that is the anchor. of the Bible, the most important, the seminal event, the Sinai covenant of the Old Testament. If that's false, what does the rest of it matter? Literally. And that's why they're trying to hit it there. The name of God is a second key, right? And this is what we find in the Yahweh stone, the Yehovah stone, the Moses stone it's often called. That Yahwehs were running around the desert in Arabia in the 14th century. And this, we have the oldest inscription of the name of God on this stone that will probably ever be found.
You know, up to this point, the silver scrolls that we're finding on Bible Hill in Israel, that was the oldest inscription of the name Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. Now, this is, it goes right back to Sinai.
And that was like 7th or 8th century. They figure maybe as old as 750 BC. This is twice that. This is 14th century BC. So
what a treasure.
Oh, yeah, it is a treasure.
And this is what was given to Dr. Kim by the Saudi prince. And you did the work in translating it. And we've got just a couple of minutes left.
Right.
We're going to have you back, Miles, because we've got to do some more. But
it is that guy.
Well, good thing we'll be doing an extra session so we can get into some of more of the detail of it. But we have nailed down the etymology of these letters, the ones that are used on the stone.
This guy.
So we can see that in detail. And this is even the people that criticize the Yehovah stone don't even try to argue the date of the letters because they'd be wrong. It wouldn't serve their purpose. They just try to come up with some bizarre arguments.
This dude in another video talking about that guy, Kim,
to explain it away.
Dr.
Like Pips
Kim,
on the Rock. They say, well, this vowel pointing shows that it's definitely a guttural H. They didn't have vowel pointing back then, not for 2,000 more years.
So they'll make up anything.
Well, see,
make up anything.
That's demagoguery. They're counting on the fact that you're not an expert in ancient lettering. I can look at it and say, are you an idiot? They didn't use vowel pointing until 800,000 AD. That's 2,000 years later. So that's a pit in the rock. What are you trying to do? So that is the kind of detail that we have now on the evidence from Mount Sinai. And I think things are tipping. You tell me what you think, but I look now and I see in newer Bibles that they now mention the site of Mount Sinai in Arabia. Because they didn't used to do that. So things are tipping. I think a lot of people are aware of this.
And that's why, Miles, we're getting this information out there, forcing it out there against the norm, against the guardians of ignorance, really, and trying to get this out to where people wake up. And we're going to continue on with this. Miles is going to be back. We're going to get into some of these Hebrew Gospels and then get back into the evidence and how we know that these things came from these original. And there are people out there that are saying that Nehemiah and I and Miles and Nehemiah are claiming that we have original manuscripts. There are no original manuscripts. Anybody that tells you that, they're idiots. They're complete morons if they think that there are any original manuscripts that exist. They are dust. That's all we have are copies of copies of copies, and we're going to be back next week, and we're going to dig into some of these things for some of the most beautiful treasures, because if there's anything we need to understand, it's the words of the prophet whom we must shema. We must hear and obey, and that prophet is Yeshua.
Look at the stones of Sinai. Those are original manuscripts. The stones... It's authority on the Sinai covenant. So
okay, there you have it. And so we've already run out of time. Bless you. Yehovah bless you and keep you. May his face shine upon you, be gracious unto you. May he lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. In the name of Yeshua, the Messiah, the Prince of Peace, the prophet we must hear and obey. And we'll be back next week on Shabbat Night Live to hear more about the words of the prophet from the Hebrew
Gospels. Live on Periscope.
Shalom.
Periscope.
Shavua Tov. Have a good week.
Somebody did pop on there for a second. Periscope is fun. All right. Teal, are you too preoccupied in there? Very sophisticated studio we got here. You see the boxes in the background. We got the yelling in the background. Yelling at children. Over there! Well, shoot, dog. I do have a lot of video to make showing how to play these songs. I just gotta think about how I want to do that. I don't really have a video editing program like I used to. I'm sure there's one I can find. Boy, times like these you wish you had Premiere. Oven video editor, boom. Let's go for this. Nice. These people freaking love you. They really do. No, I don't want to donate, man. I came for the free stuff. I can't donate because I don't have money. Because if I had money, I would buy a proprietary brand. Maybe I won't, you know. I always said I would do all things open source eventually. I'm playing a little guitar in between.
The Apostle John was not expecting it, nor could anything have prepared him for what he was about to experience. A trumpet blast transported him to the day of the Lord, in which he saw Yeshua in his resurrected body, his eyes a flame of fire, his hair and beard shocking white, his garment brighter than the noonday sun. His voice shook the heavens. Yeshua told Yohanan to write the things that he had just seen, the things which are now, and finally, the things that will be hereafter. A door opened above him in the heavens. Another trumpet blast rang out. Come up hither, and I will show you things that must come to pass in the future. Immediately, Yohanan found himself in the throne room of the Almighty. The glory could not be described in terms any human had ever imagined, but he tried. Piercing light, breaking into the colors of the rainbow, igniting the heavens with dazzling gems. Lightning cracked, thunder roared, the entire universe shook. Before the throne was a sea of fire and glass, a flaming crystal mirror. Surrounding an emerald throne were 4 terrifying, living creatures, unlike any creature upon the earth. Each had 6 wings with penetrating eyes that saw everything in a glance. The creatures looked like a lion, an ox, a man, an eagle. They shouted, "Holy!" and the rafters of the heavens shook. "Holy!" they cried, and Yohanan had no strength to even take a breath. "Holy!" And 24 white-bearded elders around the crystal sea fell from their thrones, casting their golden crowns at the feet of the one who sat on the throne. "Holy, holy, holy," they cried. "Hayah, Asher Hayah, which was, which is to come. Yehovah, Elohim, the Almighty." The voices of the 24 elders joined in the chorus. "You, O Yehovah, have created all things, and for your pleasure all things exist. You alone are worthy of all honor and glory and power forever and ever and ever. Amen." John was taken to the throne room for Yeshua to reveal a truth that no one had ever seen. He began to describe the throne room with words that failed to apprehend. The sea of fire and glass before the throne was the heavenly reality that Moses symbolized in the construction of the earthly brazen laver. The laver, or brass sea, was made by melting down the finest brass mirrors of Egyptian royalty. Those mirrors once sported the image of Hathor, the Egyptian goddess of fertility, the Egyptian version of Easter, the Babylonian sex goddess. The brazen laver was polished to a mirror finish and filled with the waters of purification. The priests were required to inspect themselves in that mirror and wash away any soot, blood, or blemish before and after they approached the altar of God. The brazen laver depicted the coming day of judgment, the gathering of the saints for judgment and reward on the sea of fire and glass that precedes admittance into the marriage supper of the Lamb. The 24 elders seated around the throne are not angels. Angels are angels, and dead men do not become angels. They remain in the grave until one of the 4 resurrections of which Yeshua, Yohanan, and Shaul speak. By revelation, Shaul, Paul stated, "All men shall be made alive in their own order," or chronology. First, Messiah. Second, the firstfruits. Third, those who are Messiahs at his coming, his parousia. His saints, whether living or dead, will be resurrected with an incorruptible body, like that with which Yeshua was raised. His saints who are still living at the time of his return, the mortal must be clothed with a new immortal body. Flesh and blood, this physical body, cannot inherit the kingdom of heaven. You must be born again. Some call this coming of Yeshua to gather his saints the rapture, from the Latin rapturo, which was translated from the Greek harpazo. In English, it is most often translated as caught up or gathering together. This momentous event was revealed by Yeshua to both Paul and John as happening at the last trumpet. Yeshua promises that it will transpire just before the first bowl of God's wrath is poured out upon those who destroyed the earth. Paul said we will be saved from the wrath to come, speaking of God's wrath. But no one is exempt from Satan's wrath. Yes, after the rapture are gathering together at the last trump in the book of the Revelation, there is one more resurrection in Paul's list, and at the end of the Revelation chronology. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 24, the King James Version reads, "Then cometh the end." The word cometh is in italics because it is not in any Greek text. It was added by translators. That is why it is in italics, but it was added incorrectly. It should simply read, "Then the end." This is the end resurrection, when Yeshua shall have reigned upon the earth until he's brought down all principalities and powers, and finally delivered up the kingdom to God the Father. This is the fourth and final resurrection, in which every man, woman, and child will be made alive, judged, rewarded, or punished. Though the gathering of the saints is detailed at the last trumpet, when Yeshua's righteous servants and the prophets are raised from the dead and rewarded, it is after the 1,000-year reign of Yeshua that the end, the final resurrection, transpires. There are only 4 times in which the dead are raised. So, who are these 24 crowned elders? And from whence do they come?
The book of Acts details an exciting new beginning for Yeshua's disciples. But one such phenomenon was more shocking than any other.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Almighty is able to do the impossible, to weave things together, and now we are going to see even a greater miracle.
In Divine Appointments, Michael Rood gives thought-provoking detail into the Apostle Philip's bizarre incident on a desert road to Gaza, including a divine disappearing act that remains a mystery to this day.
As soon as he came up out of the water, Philip is gone.
Receive this exclusive teaching for a love gift donation of just $50. Or, with a gift of $100 or more, you'll receive Divine Appointments plus a beautiful micro-tallit. Wear this unique biblical sash on your belt to observe the instruction to wear tassels as a reminder of Yehovah's commandments. Call or visit our website to make your love gift donation now.
Paul tells us by divine revelation, everyone will be made alive in their own order, tagma, their own time-ordered sequence. Messiah, comma, the first fruits, comma, those who are Messiahs at his coming, comma, then the end, learn to swim, see, down in Arizona Bay. God the Father. The King James translation team neglected to put a comma separating the resurrections of Messiah and the first fruits. But we must remember that all punctuation is interpretation, not translation. There is no punctuation in any Hebrew or Greek text of the Bible. The resurrection of the first fruit saints is detailed in Matthew chapter 27, verse 53. When Yeshua had cried with a loud voice, he yielded up the ghost. The veil of the temple was torn from top to the bottom. The earth quaked, the rocks rent, and the graves were opened. After
freaks to run it up, was ducking, oh, we call it lay.
They came out of the grave, went into the holy city, and appeared unto many.
And fucking day, learn to swim, see, down in Arizona Bay.
The year of Yeshua's crucifixion, the year 28 of the Common Era, the Passover lamb was sacrificed on the afternoon of Wednesday, April 28th. It was on the Creator's calendar, the 14th day of the month of the Aviv barley, after the Babylonian captivity, also called the month of Nisan.
Dude, I hadn't played that song.
The Passover was always killed on the 14th.
Schoolhouse song, you
the
can
day
just
of the
get
week
so
or date on a pagan calendar.
a part
But
of your
it was on that particular
being
Wednesday
just
that
pops
Yeshua
out.
was sacrificed as the
And,
Lamb of God, of which the Passover lamb was a prophetic shadow picture. In his detailed account of the crucifixion,
of course,
John stated the urgency of getting Yeshua and the others off the cross and into the grave before sunset. Because at sunset, we saw in 15, the high Sabbath that commenced the Feast of Unleavened Bread began. It was not the weekly Sabbath that was approaching. The crucifixion was not on Friday.
Yeah, they say that about people that are just really involved in a lot of different things at the same time, and they never really get really great at any one thing.
Doesn't everyone know that?
And
every Israelite
I guess it would probably be true.
The life cycle of Israel in the first century was determined by the celebration of the Feast of the Lord in conjunction with the Creator's calendar, as detailed in Leviticus chapter 23. The modern Jewish calendar was still more than 300 years into the future. Only by ignoring both the Torah and the Gospel records can one come up with a Good Friday, Dagon the Assyrian Fish God Worship Festival Crucifixion Day, and then have the resurrection occur on Easter, the Babylonian sex goddess Sunday. Even Einstein could not get 3 days and 3 nights between those two pagan sun god worship festivals. Yeshua was Jewish, not a Babylonian sun god worshiper. Yeshua's most repeated and most ignored prophecy in the entirety of Christendom. There will be one and only one sign of his authenticity. One sign you have the true Messiah, the sign of the prophet Jonah. As Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the great fish, so Yeshua said that he would be 3 days and 3 nights in the grave, in the heart of the earth, and raised on the 3rd day. And Yeshua cried with a loud voice, "It is finished." The earthquake, the rock front, and graves were opened. The earthquake opened the graves on Wednesday afternoon, the same time that the priests were marking out the 10 standing shocks of Aviv barley, a mile away on the side of the Mount of Olives. By ancient order of the prophet King David, those sheaves would be harvested after sunset at the end of the weekly Sabbath, 3 days and 3 nights later. At sunset, Wednesday, April 28th, the high Sabbath of the Feast of Unleavened Bread began. Yeshua was put in the grave just before sunset and was dead in the grave all Wednesday night, all Thursday night, and all Friday night. 3 nights, just as he prophesied. Yeshua was in the grave all the high Sabbath on Thursday, all day on Friday, all day on Saturday, the weekly Sabbath, and he was raised on the Sabbath on the 3rd day, just as the scriptures report. However, sunset at the end of the weekly Sabbath begins the day of the first fruits. When Yeshua arose on the Sabbath, 3 days and 3 nights after his burial, he waited until sunset. And then he raised those whose graves were opened by the earthquake on the previous Wednesday afternoon. Those saints were the first fruits of whom Paul speaks. Messiah, comma, the first fruits, comma, the morning following the weekly Sabbath during the Feast of Unleavened Bread is when the high priest presented the first fruits of the barley harvest in the earthly temple. After the temple was destroyed, the Pharisees changed the day of first fruits, but they could not change the historic reckoning, the prophetic reality of Moses' instructions, or King David's revelation. According to the official temple liturgy, after the Passover lambs were sacrificed and the 10 standing shocks of barley were marked for harvest, the high priest was secluded in the Temple Mount, Mount Moriah, and untouched by anyone who could contaminate him until after he presented the first fruits of the barley in the holy temple. Likewise, Yeshua was in seclusion in the garden tomb beneath the highest peak of Mount Moriah, which is north of the city wall of Jerusalem. The presentation of the first fruits was a prophetic shadow picture of what Yeshua would accomplish as the eternal high priest the morning after his resurrection. When Miriam came to the grave early in the morning, it was still dark. The fourth day, which began at sunset the previous evening, had not yet dawned. Yet the grave was empty. She saw what she presumed in the darkness was a gardener. She cried, "Where have you taken my master, please, or where have you put him?" The gardener answered her, "Miriam." She knew that voice. She burst into tears, ran to embrace his feet. Yeshua stepped back. "Do not touch me. I have not yet ascended to my Father in heaven. Go tell my disciples that I will now ascend to my Father and their Father, to my God and their God." Yeshua, now as the high priest after the order of Melchizedek, takes those saints who he raised from the dead after he arose and presented them to his Father in the heavenly temple as the first fruits from the dead. Now those 24 crowned elders on their thrones of gold are awaiting the gathering together of those who are Messiah and his coming. After Yeshua presented in the throne room of heaven, he returned to the earth and intercepted the other women who were returning from the tomb with their unused burial spices. Yeshua greeted them, "Yehovah Yoshia, Yehovah saves you." The women then rushed to him and held him by his feet. The sanctified high priest had already presented the first fruits in the heavenly temple and can now be touched by the congregation of Israel. I looked and saw in the right hand of him that sat on the throne a scroll written within, and on the backside sealed with 7 seals. A mighty angel proclaimed with a loud voice, Who is worthy to open the scroll? Who is worthy to loose the seals?" But no man in heaven nor in earth, neither under the earth, was able to open the scroll.
What?
Yohanan wept. There was no man worthy to even look. There was no hope. Yohanan was taken by the Spirit to the throne room and saw the unspeakable glory of God. But when he saw the scroll in the right hand of Yehovah, he began to weep in anguish. The scroll had been bound with 7 seals that no man or beast had the authority to strip from the scroll. All was lost. Hopelessness swept a chilling wind across the sea of fire and glass. Yohanan wept before the 24 elders. He sank to his knees before the 4 magnificent beasts surrounding the throne. What is this scroll? What are these seals which keep it inextricably bound? Though his primary mission was covert, and Daniel recorded that Messiah had exactly 70 weeks, 490 days to fulfill his mission, Yeshua let us know at the beginning of his ministry what this scroll and his mission entailed. On the day of his baptism, Yeshua was driven by the Spirit into the wilderness where he fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. When the 40 days were finished, on the 41st day, he was hungry, and Hasatan, the adversary, came to tempt him. Satan took him up to a high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of this world in a moment of time. Satan said to him, "All the kingdoms and the riches and the glory of this world have been delivered into my hand.
Let me go
And
stop
to
these
whomsoever I
things.
will, I give it. Bow down and worship me, and all this will be yours."
Okay.
Yeshua never challenged
I'm gonna
Satan's
try to come back
authority
on here
or
later,
his jurisdiction,
but I gotta go right
but
now.
he flatly refused the offer. There
Thank
was
you,
another plan.
bot that is giving me all the hearts right now.
Yeshua knew that Adam was made the God of this world. He was given the authority and dominion over creation and the sole responsibility to steward
Bye-bye.
his resources. But Adam, by his act
Go
of
bye-bye.
blatant disobedience, by his act of rebellion, transferred